Thank you, and I think there are two speakers that have brilliantly introduced what I'm going to say. One is exactly the one that preceded me, because he stressed how much we need to invest to have data readily and timely available to be used. And also Fatima, before going, she stressed the importance of having real-world data to link with imaging and with biological sample. So this is what the project IDEA4RC is aiming and doing. It started 3 years ago. It is focused on rare cancers, but the intention of this project is really to make sure that real-world data will be available. Of course, preserving the privacy of the patient, because this is a huge concern, and we heard also about the first speakers about the concern of ethics and privacy issues, but we want also to reduce the workload for data collection, because we know now there are data managers or clinicians behind the computer, basically copy and pasting information from the electronic clinical records into the CRF. We are testing this infrastructure in a specific network, which is the European Reference Network on Rare Adult Solid Cancers, and I'm really happy to talk to a network, because to make sure the data and the potential of the data can be unlocked, we need to transform a clinical, translational network into data network. So this is also a call for ICC to really try, to develop a way to enlarge and build a data infrastructure for having data readily available. Of course, to do this, we have many challenges. Today, I'll try to focus on two. One is the data heterogeneity, but especially availability. And again, it has been already stressed, the data understandability, because unfortunately a lot of tools and methods that are applied to harmonize the data are based on technical solutions that end up to be a little bit far from the usual clinics, and so sometimes solutions are difficult to be understood by the clinician, that are those that will use the data, so are those that have to understand how to search for the data. And again, the data security and trust. The first challenge I'd like to focus it's really that 80% of the information available in the electronic health records are text. So we need to do something about it. The other point that I will stress, I already said it, is the ability to understand which data are available, and once we have identified the data, how much we are able to query and to develop cohorts for doing the studies that we are intended to do. And then we have the problem of the security, which is not only an issue of the ethical concern, it's an issue also of cybersecurity, of infrastructure that are becoming always more and more complex. We don't have the expertise, sometimes in the usual general hospital, to deal with this expertise. So we need to find, as well as we start putting ourselves behind the cages of the cybersecurity, we need to think also about a different way for ensuring privacy, such as federated learning, which is something we have been testing, and now everybody is talking about, at least in the last 5 years. So what IDEA is trying to do, I presented here only some of the solutions for the specific topics that, in my opinion, could be relevant for this audience. So one is, yes, we are also developing an NLP model. I'm not the one behind it, happy to provide all the technical details. What this NLP is aiming at doing is not to extract single information. It's not to extract staging or grading, but the idea is to be able to identify and to basically align over time all the different information, clinical information relevant to build the full history of the patient by stage of diseases. So the idea is that this NLP model has been trained against a common data model that was defined on the basis of key clinical information that basically include information on the diagnosis, on the treatment diagnosis, for recurrence treatment until the end of the patient. in terms that either is cured or is dead. So what this NLP does is that it basically identifies and properly order accordingly to this common data model the full history of the patient. So we don't need to further elaborate, okay, the information. And this common data model, it's a common data model that is not only of this project, it's an oncological common data model that has been inbuilt and leveraged. The OMOP and the FIRE, which some of you may know, are the currently standard common data model used. So we are really trying to align with international initiatives to make sure that what has been done will be really leverage the opportunities to collaborate across Europe, and also not only Europe, because OMOP actually was born in the States. In order to, I would say, to hide, okay, to the clinician, to the user, that needs to identify and develop the complexity of the terminology behind the common data model. What we are doing is that we are developing a court builder, okay, that basically, again, using NLP will allow the user to interrogate and therefore to navigate the data available using their common language. So using the language that at least clinician or researcher that I used to work with oncology used to talk. And again, since sometimes to understand where to find data, how to analyze data within a specific infrastructure might be complicated, again, we are using chatbots to help the user navigating the solution. And the last things I'd like to share is the idea of the federated learning that was already anticipated by the colleagues from Naples, if I'm not mistaken. Here we are using it exactly for analyzing the data, because the federated learning is based on a machine learning approach that basically trains the algorithm across different nodes where data are stored locally, so data are not do not move. So what basically happens is that in each hospital, the data are stored locally. So this is the example of how the federated learning calculates the average. So what it happens is that the algorithm goes in each of the centers, and to calculate the average, it will start locally to estimate and to sum the age of the different patients included and the number of patients. What will come out from each of the different nodes is exactly the sum of the ages and the number of patients. So that's why this is considered a federated learning. It's considered a privacy-preserving solution, because basically what will come out from the node, so from each of the database, it's only either a sum, or an average. It's an aggregated type of results, or for more complex type of algorithm are the functions of the model that will come out. And I will conclude just giving you a recap of the solution that the project is currently testing. And thank you for your attention.
Anyone has a question? I have one. So, synthetic data. What about? Is there any? Are there any initiative to incorporate synthetic data into the project that you've described?
Yes, we are currently developing a project on synthetic data. The idea of the project is. There are two main reasons for which we are doing it. One is to try to expand the sample size, because these are, of course, for rare cancers. So this is one of the parts that we will do, but we will try also to address how much synthetic data could help in ameliorating the quality of the data. Because, of course, it was mentioned that during the first presentation, the point is that working with different hospitals, with patients moving from one hospital to an hospital, these data sets are not always complete, and that's why, and sometimes are also a little bit biased, because Huracan, it's a network of expert centers, so might not completely be representative of the general population with that cancer. So we are trying to use synthetic data for expand, but also to try to understand how much we can ameliorate the data in terms of completeness, but also to what extent we can work on bias.
I have actually one curiosity, so about the federated learning that is really interesting to, protect the privacy. So how manage, for example, the update of data? So regarding, for example, the follow-up. So we know that sometimes we needed to update the follow-up of patients because what we are studying, we want to extract. Using even AI can change depending on the follow-up. So how the federated learning can be updated, moving back, for example, to the single center and then improve the algorithm based on the follow-up? I don't know.
No, I mean, basically, the federated learning infrastructure already includes a set of algorithms for the type of analysis that you want to do. So if there is an algorithm that wants, for example, to assess prognostic or predictive factors, the algorithm will use the same variable that have been set. So it's the database that have to be as much as possible updated at the latest available dates that could be useful.
Hello. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question about federated learning. It is possible to make federated learning with open source LLM, or do you need to develop ad hoc algorithms?
Good question. So technically speaking, okay, at least the infrastructure we are using, which is Vantage 6, it's an open source infrastructure. And in fact, there is a community of Vantage 6. Now, the problem is related to the privacy issue, because the centers want exactly to know which type of analyses are going to be performed. That's why in this infrastructure, we, in the IDEA4RC infrastructure, we developed an algorithm store so that the centers might be informed about the algorithm, and we had to develop, so we need also to develop DPI, data protection impact assessment, for each of the algorithm. So it's the legal part that is always the most challenging one, I would say.
I think this is it. So this ends our current session. Thank you very much.